everybody. Welcome back. It is the World of Concacaf podcast. We're at the news desk. I'm Eric Schmitz.
And I'm Donald Wine.
And yes, we still have this podcast. It has been a little bit of a layoff. And I want to get right down to it. And I just want to say we did not stop recording because of what happened in the Nations League. I'm just saying that now. It's totally unrelated that now someone else won a Nations League. Completely unrelated, but it's gonna be back behind the mic. Good to see your face over Zoom here. Jonathan is not with us. He's currently probably still drunk, celebrating the Liverpool Premier League title.
Yes,
over in
at least he should be.
Yeah, he should be. Unfortunately, he's okay with all the stuff going on over there. We're all good there, so no Jonathan. But Donald and I figured there's too much going on, too much stuff happening. We need to actually sit down and talk about all this because it's gonna be a busy summer.
It's funny. We were like, oh, we should probably talk about the one or two things coming up, and then it turned into 12. So yeah, we're gonna dive right into it.
Yeah. No, we went through a list what weird stuff is going on in CONCACAF, and there's always a list. Always a list.
Always a list.
Yeah. I do want to start by saying a shout out to Volar. With Volar, all things are possible.
Literally, so everything is possible.
Yes. So we are inspired by Volar, our majestic CONCACAF seabird, as we record this.
Volar even brought us the first ever CONCACAF Pope. First ever.
I'm just saying, we did not have a CONCACAF Pope until Volar came, and he used his majestic powers rising from the sea to spread CONCACAF that the Catholic Church just had to get in on CONCACAF.
The Pope is from Chicago. What are we talking about? And he went to school in Michigan. What are we talking about here?
Do you think the Pope has been to a Gold Cup final? Because there's been a couple of them in Chicago.
Let's put it this way: at Pontifex, DM us at Podcacaf. We could get you Gold Cup tickets. I mean, he could probably get himself Gold Cup tickets, but if he wants to sit with us, I absolutely will sit with the Pope.
He should change his username to Pontcacaf.
I don't know, man. That's infringing. Slightly. I don't want to have to go to war with the Pope over a username.
Listen, we come from the same region. There's got to be some solidarity here. Yeah. So shout out to him. I hope he does, Pope things well and represents CONCACAF. And it's always good to have someone in your corner. But yeah, we haven't recorded since Nations League. So I guess congratulations to Mexico for winning their first Nations League. They are now 2 behind the United States in titles. After the U.S. was upset by Panama, huge win for Panama. Great for their program to get to a continental final, especially one of the prestige of Nations League. And no congrats to Canada for getting 3rd place.
Congrats to them on messing up their best player, apparently.
Yeah. Well, Canada won in World Junior hockey terms. Bronze is Canadian gold. So
right.
They got that in the soccer. But yeah, wild story with Alphonso Davies. He got hurt in the 3rd place game. And after the tournament, his agent was just like, Canada shouldn't have been playing him. It's kind of a wild story.
Well, it started off, of course, it was the 3rd place game. So most people will say there's not a lot to play for in a 3rd place game of any tournament, right? There's some tournaments that forego it completely, but the Nations League has guaranteed couple of games. And so I guess the agent came out after the game, and Davies was hurt, maybe 25 minutes into the game? I know you were there. Yeah. It was 25 minutes into the game that he got hurt. So it was very early on, and we wish him a speedy recovery because he's a great player to watch. But afterwards, the agent basically said that, Alphonso Davies kind of said, hey, I'm I'm kind of laboring here. I have a knock of some sort. Probably shouldn't play this game, and for lack of a better word, was forced to play by Canada. That's the word from the agent. He then went back to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich was like, "This is worse than we thought." Like, I think he had
Yeah.
immediate surgery, and they started blaming Canada for Alfonso Davies even being in the roster because it felt, according to them, it felt like they felt like that he shouldn't have even been playing at all. That's how hurt he might have been before this.
Yeah, he left in the 12th minute. The early reports were it was a hamstring injury. My man tore his ACL.
Tore his ACL. Oh,
Tore his
well, first
ACL.
of all, again, on TV, there was no doubt as to what was going on. They weren't servicing his hamstring, they weren't putting the magic spray on it. It was clear that it was a knee, and it was very clear that it was serious enough that it warranted. Again, if you're subbing someone off in the 12th minute, it's it's bad, right? It's bad on a certain level. But when it was the knee, everyone feared that it was an ACL tear or MCL strain of some sort that would keep him out for a lengthy period. But again, he flew back to Bayern, and Bayern was like, "This is even worse than we thought." And I guess the surgery revealed some extensive damage to that knee, which
Yeah.
again leads all back to the agent really being upset and Bayern being upset at Canada Soccer.
Yeah, to read from the statement that the agent put out, he said on Saturday night, the night before the game, the expectation was that he would not be in the 11. As a captain, I feel he was pressured to start the game by the coach. Alfonso is not the kind of guy to say no in these moments. He ended up playing, and look what happened. Canada Soccer needs to do a better job managing these players, in my opinion. Alfonso is down and obviously really disappointed about this injury. Thankfully, he is in wonderful hands with a world class group at Bayern who will take great care of him. And then he had surgery and out for
And
several months.
Bayern was, there was the talk that Bayern was going to sue Canada Soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because of all this. And that didn't come to pass. I think cooler
Well,
heads prevailed, but
Bayern knows they got no money. What are you going to sue them
right,
for?
right.
Maple syrup? You ain't getting anything out of them.
Well, they do have an endless supply, so they could
Yeah.
probably get enough of that. But yeah,
Couple
I
pizza
think that
pizzas.
whole thing was weird. The whole thing was, and also there was the fact that uh, Jesse Marsh in that game got a red card and then got suspended for, I guess, the first two games of the Gold Cup
That's right.
because of him not leaving the field in a timely manner. So there was that added to all of this.
Yeah. My man threw a fit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So obviously, you mentioned he's going to miss the first two games of the Gold Cup. We'll touch on the Gold Cup a little bit. I do want to take a moment because we are recording here on May 27th of the year 2025. It is a historic day in CONCACAF. It's an anniversary. 10 years ago today was the raid on FIFA in Zurich. The scandal that broke out over the payments that, rigged the voting for multiple World Cups that were thanks to the informant, the CONCACAF legend, Chuck Blazer, you know, turning himself in and obviously, telling on people. Um, Obviously, CONCACAF was at the center of a lot of this. Many people throw it under the bus. Obviously, Blazer entered a guilty plea. You had Aaron Davidson, the chairman of Traffic Sports, who got indicted. Alfredo Huet, who is the president of CONCACAF, the FIFA vice president. Many others. Jeffrey Webb from the Cayman Islands. He was the president of CONCACAF and president of the Cayman Islands Federation, FIFA vice president. Um, Darian and Daryl Warner of Trinidad and Tobago, who were both the sons of one Jack Warner. Um, Donald, any thoughts on Jack Warner getting indicted?
Jack Warner sucks. He still sucks.
10 years later. Honestly, really a historic day. I've got a couple books sitting up on my table I still haven't finished about the whole thing. Highly recommend. It's really a monumental time that was in CONCACAF because obviously there was, the need for reform. And looking back 10 years later, do you feel like we've gotten the kind of reform that we need as we look forward to a Gold Cup where Saudi Arabia is a guest
Well,
replacing guest Qatar.
well, in a way, right? Like the whole scandal blew up because they were feeding votes to try and influence the vote on World Cup hosting sites. And now we don't even get the vote anymore because they basically have just, kind of figured out how to rig, make single bidding
They got
for
a
the next like five
rotation.
World Cups. Yeah, they
Yeah.
have the rotation, and the rotation is very tight knit, which, could yield a Island World Cup in
We'll
2038.
we'll get to that right after this. We'll get to that right
Okay,
after this.
okay, but I mean, yeah, we've gotten rid of that part. The voting part, you can't really bribe the vote if there isn't one. But I think in a way, FIFA feels like their reform is streamlining all this stuff so that they can get down to the business of soccer. But in essence, is really denying some of these, potential bids the opportunity to have their voices heard. How many people thought that? Um, I mean, look, even Qatar, right? Like Qatar had their day, came up against the United States. Morocco went up against the United States twice and lost, and finally was able to get in 2030. But there's a lot of bids out there that deserve to have their time. I don't think Australia and New Zealand would get the 2023 World Cup, the Women's World Cup, if there was a closed process like there has been for the men, and even now has extended to women because, of course, the United States and parts of CONCACAF will get it in 2031. The United Kingdom will get it in 2035, and that's essentially set. So I feel like opening this process back up does one thing, but also with the expansion of all these tournaments to 48 teams, and now they're talking 64 on the men. There will be 48 for the women in 2031. That again reduces the number of team or of countries who could make a serious bid and allows FIFA to kind of steer in the direction they want to go.
Yeah. And I mean, at some point, they might just need to expand it to 210 teams and, systematically over a couple of years, just weed it down to, your round of 32, your round of 16,
You know
which,
what? That's a great idea. I that's a, you know what? Just off the top, hear me out. I have a name for that tournament, like that little portion. I
yeah.
could call it qualifying, and then you qualify for the final tournament, which would
Mhm.
be like 32 teams, or I guess maybe 48, but really 32, and you qualify for that part, and then you have a tournament where you get a champion. It's not, it's just a rough
Just
idea.
spitball, just
Rough
spitball.
idea. We'll hammer out the details later.
Yeah. And it is interesting because of that scandal, they delayed the process for voting on the 2026 hosts. And obviously, the United States very instrumental in the whole scandal, the arrests and indictments, and really bringing down this corruption. They end up delaying the vote, and 2026 happens to come in the U.S. And a lot of that is they're just going to make a shitload of money, but maybe it's all right. You get the World Cup that you thought you were going to get. Let's move on with our day. I don't know. But shout out Chuck Blazer, who, as of recording time, is still dead. But we did mention 2038. So 2026 set. That's the United bid, US, Mexico, Canada. 2030 already announced. It's Spain, Portugal, Morocco, in Europe, in Africa. And then the three South American countries are it's
Uruguay,
Argentina, Uruguay,
Argentina, Paraguay.
Paraguay. So we got six countries in 2030. 2034, we're going back to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. They've already, you know, got that locked in. The checks are cleared. And now 2038, because of this rotation, we've got CONCACAF in 2026. We've got CONMEBOL, UEFA, and
And
Africa
Africa.
in 2030. 2034 is technically Asia. So there's really only one confederation left in the rotation, and that is Oceania. And there is discussion about a potential New Zealand World Cup, where they may co-host with Fiji, another Oceania nation, and potentially playing more games in the United States. Logistics aside of playing across that many time zones with, that many flights needed to get back and forth to places. Obviously, Oceania deserves a World Cup. And I think we deserve to go to Oceania for a World Cup. But is this
Agreed.
really feasible?
Not a trans-Pacific World Cup as has been proposed. Now, I will say this, having games in Hawaii um, does actually make some sense if you're trying to do this. But even with that, right, and here's the thing, it makes a tiny bit more sense when you consider the fact that there are going to be teams, probably the United States in 2030, who will be flying from Uruguay or Paraguay or Argentina to Spain. That is a 10-hour trip, right? To get from one to the other. From LA to Auckland, New Zealand is 15 hours.
Yeah.
I've done it, right? So it's a long flight. From Hawaii to Auckland, I believe, is 9 hours. So it's a long, long flight. And I think the one thing that kind of makes it weird is that because Saudi Arabia is hosting in 2034, the natural partner for New Zealand, Australia, is excluded from this.
Yeah.
So and that would make all the sense in the world. New Zealand, Australia, again, maybe throw in a Fiji, who's trying to build a stadium big enough to be able to host this thing. And again, even if you wanted to throw Hawaii into that mix, you know, that's still an outlier. But yeah, sure, go ahead. But because of Saudi Arabia, that has messed up this potential natural pairing and has created this opportunity for FIFA to go, maybe we could still make some money off this thing if it's only Oceania and CONCACAF. Now, the one thing that is interesting is that Victor Montagliani, who is Canada Soccer's president and also the current president of CONCACAF, has told England, yo, you should bid in 2038, even though you're not supposed to. Giving indication to England that if they had a joint UK bid of some sort, that he would be behind it as the CONCACAF president who would be eligible for his region to once again host this World Cup. So that is an interesting wrinkle. There's a long way to go with this, but the idea is fascinating and also terrifying at the same time because logistically this would be the worst possible thing to do. And who knows, the way that the 2030 hosts are trying to do, we could have 64 teams at that point. So that would make this even worse to have 64 teams flying across more than 12,000 miles in, like you said, what, 11 time zones or something like that?
Yeah.
2 days, right? You could literally have games on two separate days um, with this World Cup. So
Yeah.
it's wild.
Yeah. I'm reading this report, Stars and Stripes FC. I don't know if you're
Oh, yeah, I've
aware
heard
of
of
the
them.
publication.
Yeah.
This report by a enterprising young writer, Donald Wine. Um, but it mentions that United Kingdom with England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, they're likely to be hosts of the 2035 Women's World Cup.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. Like, I don't know if FIFA would want to have England hosting two World Cups in 3 years, but
Well, we're doing it.
they certainly,
We're doing 2026 and 2031,
that's
but we were
5 years.
going to,
So,
yeah, but
so there's a
I
full
mean,
cycle between.
but here's the thing. We were the shoo-ins for 2027 until they tried to kind of go, hey, why don't we let Brazil get in on this and you guys
Yeah.
get 2031? That's kind of how the United States was handed 2031 was this deal to not do 2027 because remember, we have been planning basically for 6 years for it to be 2026 Men's World Cup, 2027 Women's World Cup, and 2028 Olympics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get it. We heard Brazil and we're like, yeah, down.
Yeah. You want us to go
See
there
you
and then we'll
there.
come
Yeah.
here? Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. We'll push this. But yeah, exciting times. A lot of weird shit going on. Speaking of weird stuff, so obviously we got the international window coming up. There is some CONCACAF action going on right now. The Unity Cup. Uh, Again, we were recording this May 27th. Earlier today, Jamaica defeated Trinidad and Tobago 3-2 in the first match of the Unity Cup. If you are wondering what the Unity Cup is an international football tournament held in Brentford in London. This tournament is a 14 tournament. It features Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago from Concacaf, Ghana and Nigeria from Africa. And competitors are, countries with large diasporas in London. So it's trying to like bring, it's an Afro Caribbean themed tournament. Jamaica advanced to the final. Trinidad going to the third place game where they will play the winner and loser of the Nigeria Ghana match. This is the second Unity Cup. The first one was held in 2004, so 21-year gap, where Nigeria defeated Ireland in the final and Jamaica finished third. So, Ireland apparently not invited for this Afro Caribbean themed Unity Cup. But
I
early
do like it
start.
though. I do like
What's that?
this. This is
Yeah.
like it's funny because in the college basketball world, there's always some creativity in scheduling some of these games, right? Some of these early season tournaments and or like one-off events, right? And some teams are like, "Hey, come play us, but we're gonna play over here." It'll make sense when you get there, but it's gonna be us two teams and these other two teams, and we'll just kind of do a little mini day of basketball, and it's great. I feel like teams like Jamaica, teams like Trinidad and Tobago, a lot of the islands, they should get creative in trying to get the maximize the potential of CONCACAF and get the name of their profile up, right? By
Mhm.
playing these games, they're elevating the profile of their teams and also of CONCACAF because that sort of thing. And I like the fact that they're challenging a Nigeria who's really tough, right? Not the toughest team in the world, but a tough out no matter when you play them.
Yeah.
Those are the type of games you want to see them playing.
Yeah. And I mean, these are mostly domestic squads because we are not
Hmm.
within a FIFA window. Great opportunity for these Jamaican and Trinidad domestic players to get seen in London. I'm sure there's scouts there. Great opportunity for them to show themselves off, and great opportunity for them to also start preparation early for World Cup qualifying, which comes up in this June window. Obviously, massive for Jamaica to make sure that they lock in moving on to the next round, as well as Trinidad. So good to see. Rooting for Concacaf. We're Team Concacaf here. So hopefully, the Reggae Boys and the Soccer Warriors can get some dubs over in London. Getting away from international football, there's some club stuff going on in CONCACAF. Donald, do you want to talk about the CONCACAF Champions Cups going on?
Yeah. Well, let's start with the women because it has already happened.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Gotham SC. The very first ever Concacaf W Champions Cup is in the books. Gotham SC was the winner over Tigres in the first ever final. Uh, this is something that I hope continues to take off, and I think as it evolves, this is again, it's only his first year. As it evolves, I think they'll figure out a way to get more teams involved and create a full group stage and make it, kind of the spectacle that it is on the men's side. And the men's side reaches its conclusion this weekend. Cruz Azul is hosting the final against the upstart Vancouver Whitecaps, who have been electric to start the season, both in Major League Soccer, but also in this international tournament. The winner would get a bid to the 2029 club, or is it 2020? Yeah, 2029 Club World Cup. So
Yeah.
they'd be one of the first teams to qualify for this next Club World Cup, not the one that's happening in like 15 days.
Yeah. Um, is is there going to be a women's club World Cup that this CONCACAF, if the Gotham is going to qualify for now?
There is, but they haven't released details on how that's going to work yet.
Yeah.
I think they've
See, it's
delayed
exciting.
some of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting for me for the women's game to get in, like to learn CONCACAF.
Hmm.
Like all these women's teams, it's like, yeah, go on the road, go play in those environments. The fans learning more about like the network of what CONCACAF is, and then eventually, yeah, when we get to full international tournaments where we can have American and Mexican women's teams going and playing competitive games against teams in Europe and Africa and like really getting a sense of like where they stand in the international game. So exciting for that.
Yeah.
But speaking of the men's World Cup, the men's club World Cup, there's going to be a playoff because of the whole Club Leon thing. Do you want to try to
Yes.
explain it? Because it's confusing for me.
Yes, I can absolutely explain it. So, Club Leon, of course, had won a CONCACAF Champions Cup and thought they were in this grandiose Club World Cup that is supposed to start next month. However, Leon is owned by the same parent group that owns Club Pachuca, who is also in the Club World Cup. And FIFA has a very strict rule that in a club competition, an owner cannot have two teams in the same competition. So basically, Alajuelense, who through something, I forgot why they had a beef, but they basically said, hey, because Leon is a club is a owned by another team essentially, they should be out. We should be in. So Alajuelense sued the Court of Arbitration for Sport, saying that Leon should be kicked out and that they should be put in. FIFA agreed that Leon should be kicked out because of the two the owner rule, and they said that instead there should be a playoff. Now, Alajuelense sued to get into the Club World Cup outright. Leon and Pachuca sued to keep Leon in their space. And this is after the draw. Leon was drawn in with like uh was it Esperance de Tunis and
Yeah.
Chelsea. So they were already in a group and they're already preparing for this. This happened in like April that they were
Yeah.
kicked out.
Tickets were on sale for these
Tickets
games.
have been on sale. Like Leon fans could have
Yeah.
snapped up all the tickets possible.
They were supposed to be here in Nashville. And yeah, like
Yeah,
it blows my mind that this was not, why did no one think that this might be an issue when you had the draw
did the
and put
draw.
tickets on sale?
Yeah.
Like,
Again, it's
wow.
not like Leon just got in, right?
Yeah.
They were one of the teams. They had all 32 teams already decided when they did this draw, and then this happens. So the Court of Arbitration for Sport threw out everybody's appeal, right? They threw out Alajuelenses, they threw out Leones, they threw out Pachucas. So now there is this Club World Cup playoff that will take place between Club America, who I believe is number one in the CONCACAF standings, and LAFC, who I guess, again, was
They lost the final to
they
Club
lost the
Leon.
final to Club Leon, right? So they would have been in. And so they are having a playoff on Saturday at BMO Stadium in LA to determine who will get Club Leon's spot in this Club World Cup. Mind you, their first game is on June 18th, I want to say. So they will have 18 days to prepare for this Club World Cup. And they will be playing Chelsea in their first match. So again, a big mess. It's kind of added some drama to at least the final playoff spot, unlike the actual final playoff spot, which kind of was handed to Inter Miami. But yeah, this is a CONCACAF mess that has turned into a FIFA mess. But at the end, CONCACAF will still have a team represented in the form of Club America or LAFC.
Looking forward to that, I guess. I don't know. Like
We'll
with
see what happens with the winner. Like again, because like at least with Club America, like their season's just ended, right? They actually just lost in the Liga MX final to Toluca. Club America had won three straight titles, and Toluca took them out. LAFC literally in like 5 days could have to really transform their entire schedule because they weren't expecting to play in this, and all of a sudden they could be missing like 5 games because they're playing in this group stage, at least minimum group stage, right? So it's going to be interesting how MLS prepares for that and how the teams that are supposed to play LAFC, if they have to again prepare on from I mean, also it affects the Gold Cup as well because so many players from on both teams are on rosters or could be on rosters, and at least in the case of the United States, they actually had to hold off like Zendejas and Timothy Tillman because they weren't sure if they're going to be available. Mexico could be missing like what 6 or 7 players if Club America makes it, because those guys would have to go play for America in the tournament. So it's really throwing a lot of rosters into flux, mainly Mexico's, because I think the U.S. and some other teams have kind of prepared for that. But yeah, FIFA Club World Cup operating at the same time as the Gold Cup in America. A lot of soccer this summer.
Yeah.
Choose wisely.
Yeah. And we are going to choose CONCACAF in every scenario. We'll wrap it right here. Obviously, a lot coming up. We're going to try to get back onto a regular schedule with recording. We've got World Cup qualifying coming up in the June window, followed by the Gold Cup. The Club World Cup's going to be happening. There's going to be other shit going on. It never ends. I swear, it just never ends. So thank you to our patrons who have stuck by us. Obviously, it's been quiet. We paused billing, so no one's getting charged for no content. So we appreciate you sticking with us, supporting the podcast, making sure we can afford to do this.
But we do have one more round that we are about to record, so you will get that probably before you get this. I don't know how. Yeah.
No, I mean, if you're asking what is this one more round, it's a bonus podcast that only our patrons can listen to on our Patreon. So go to our Patreon, patreon.com/podcacaf. We appreciate your support. You can follow us on social media at podcacaf, PODCACAF. Donald, where can they find you?
At BlazingDW, mainly on Blue Sky and Instagram.
Yes, we prefer the Blue Ski these days. But support us on Patreon. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you, our listeners. I appreciate you, Donald. I appreciate Volar. I appreciate Jonathan, but mostly Volar for spiritually guiding us through these torrid times. That wraps us up. We're going to record one more round after this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. And yes, Chuck Blazer still dead.